gotta be murder, there's gotta be blood. You wouldn't be that powerful unless there were blood. Blood.
I found this documentary about exorcisms performed by Bob Larson. We talked about him in a previous video. Dr. Reverend Bob Larson. That doctorate does mean something, but the Reverend doesn't show where he got it and from who. He has an online course where he teaches future exorcists for only $500 to $995. The Reverend is so powerful, he can cast demons through a phone call. Bob claims to have performed 40,000 exorcisms in 40 years. Oh, and he also says how the Catholic Church doesn't do exorcisms, which is a shame because now there are demons everywhere. But what I didn't know is that he taught his daughter the art of casting evil spirits. How convenient! It all starts with this lady yelling at Bob Larson's face. This is a seminar that the Reverend holds in Hollywood, California, sort of like a mass exorcism. Then we are introduced to this trio of ladies, Bob Larson's daughter Bryn and her two friends, sister Tess and Savannah, called the Teen Exorcists. Catchy name for sure.
What we're trying to do is bring exorcism out of this dark corner that people have stuffed it into. We're trying to show people what it really is, what exorcism is, and that they can get help for things that are tormenting them. That's our goal.
They are going to be under scrutiny because they are now adults. They were easily influenced teenagers who were taught about the spirits and demons, but now they can think of their own and they all decided to follow Bob Larson's commands.
But armed with their crosses and their Bibles,
how many generations? Answer me. I got generations.
They take on the devil, under the guidance of Bryn's father, Bob Larson, a preacher and exorcist who claims to have performed more than 15,000 of these.
All of these theatrics against the girls' unbothered faces just feels weird, no? And it's not because it's Hollywood and it's all staged. Could be staged, come to think about it. Some of the exorcisms could be people who were paid to be over the top. But these people could either have some sort of mental illness or they think all their problems are going to be resolved with an exorcism. Think of an alcoholic or a drug addict. It's easy for them to, instead of doing the tough job of getting themselves better and surpassing the addiction, it's a demon. So once it's out of their body, their addiction will leave. And when they will eventually fail, then it means the demon came back. Or maybe a cheater or an abuser. Instead of facing consequences and the reasons why they did what they did, an evil spirit was behind all of those horrible acts, and once gone, that person is finally free with zero accountability for their actions. These people exist. We saw it on that Dr. Phil episode where Thomas and Victoria had a very tough childhood and were experiencing nightmares involving demons. Thomas had an exorcism by Bob Larson, but Victoria's was a failure. Dr. Phil recommended therapy and they told them both it's easier to think a demon is behind it, but the logical way of think is their life was rough and those nightmares are the constant reminder of what they want to forget.
There has been an exponential rise in the interest in getting exorcisms and in the cases coming to me. It's absolutely astounding. There's definitely job security in being an exorcist.
Are more people possessed than ever before?
I do believe more people are possessed today.
The seminar is called Do What Jesus Did, and according to their website,
God has given Bob Larson a vision to raise up, Do What Jesus Did spiritual freedom teams to fulfill the mission of Christ by preaching the gospel, healing the brokenhearted, and setting the captives free. These emotional healing and deliverance teams are comprised of lay people who volunteer their time to bring hope to the desperate victims of abuse and spiritual bondage. Teams are also being planted in many foreign countries, including Canada, the Caribbean, England, Australia, Africa, New Zealand, Europe, and Eastern Europe.
this sounds like those sketchy soul-searching retreats where the leader knows exactly what to say to make the people in attendance vulnerable and easy to manipulate. Kind of like what we're watching here, it only takes one over-the-top exorcism and all of a sudden everyone is feeling fondled by a demon.
Bob Larson scans the room.
Look at me.
He's searching for what he says is the devil in people's eyes. To my surprise, it was sitting right beside me.
It's sort of like a realistic Ghostbusters scene, no? Everything is fine until the spirit cannot help itself. But if you take a look at the faces of the people in the crowd, everyone is solemn, as if they were waiting for their turn in fright.
It is dramatic, but I'm not thinking dramatics, it's just dramatic. I mean, it's pretty sensational when you have somebody you're hanging on to, they're flailing about, they're screaming curses, and then a split second later they come to themselves and they're a very nice, ordinary person. Now that's pretty sensational. But I don't try to make it sensational. In fact, I don't have to, it just is.
There's this Facebook page called Bob Larson is a Fraud, where in multiple conversations in posts, there is this ongoing theme of actors being paid to pretend to be possessed and pump up the crowd as well as Bob's reputation. This lady for sure looks like a plant. I could be wrong.
When you're looking into someone's eyes and you can see the demon, what's that like?
It's incredible. There's nothing like staring down a demon, because that's when it really becomes real.
So these three ladies met on a karate class when they were around 10 years old. They are all black belts and they also fight demons, I guess. According to them, a spirit can possess someone and cause them addictions, depression, and pain. They also believe every country has a very unique and specific demon. For example, in the UK, because of that damn Harry Potter, there's a lot of witchcraft going on.
Honestly, I've never tried to do any showmanship at all. I'm just demonstrating the power of God. We're not doing it to play up to the cameras. I've seen some amazing things in private with nobody there.
We break every stereotype there is for an exorcist for young teenage girls. It doesn't get more radical than that.
Bob Larson, the one who taught the teens the art of exorcism, asked for donations after their presentations. Couple of $100, not much. And he says that spiritual services don't have to be for free.
Money and motives, anytime someone is in God's work, it always comes up. People will pay thousands of dollars to go to drug rehab or to pay psychiatrists, but there's this idea that spirituality needs to be for free. The average mega church pastor in America, it's not uncommon for them to make up to $1 million a year. Well, I can assure you we are nowhere near that.
Allegedly, Bob screens the potential possessed with a questionnaire to see if they need any medical help first. But if we remember what the girls say about how evil spirits can make addictions, depression, and pain, Bob can still go ahead and perform the exorcism on these people regardless of the results.
I actually don't know that there's anybody else on the planet who can say what I say and what my daughter says, but I wish there were a million more.
I don't think he wants that. He's enjoying this novelty thing he has going on. The rest will be only competition, which will be bad for business. Hence why the only exorcists are controlled by him.
Franchise, of course, is a harsh commercial term. Do I want to duplicate it? Absolutely.
That I get. If there's a franchise, he gets the money. Like the Fine Bros, remember them? The whole plan was to only react words, so every YouTuber who will make a video reacting to something, regardless if they were part of their channel or not, will have to give a part of their earnings to them just because of the word. Everyone got angry and they backed down. I don't know about this topic though.
Catholic priest Father Gary Thomas fights evil quietly, discreetly. He is one of the church's few officially sanctioned exorcists.
My role as an exorcist is not to simply say, oh yes, you have a demonic attachment. My role is to get to the root cause of their affliction.
Father Thomas takes the approach Bob Larson says he does. Thomas rejects a bunch of people because their pain comes from an organic source and not the supernatural. He was taught by the Vatican and he's kind of famous.
Even had his training turned into a film, The Rite.
Thomas has exorcised 8 people without cameras or an audience.
When people of other denominations are performing exorcisms, they're more likely to be really experiences or rituals of deliverance. They're very dangerous. They can do more harm than good. So you really have to know what you're doing. The vast majority of people who see me have mental health problems.
Even people in the Vatican, a place covered in gold, have standards. At least they tell the priest to help people by offering them therapy first. And there's a prime example for that. Warning! If you watch the original video, there's a part where a woman severely mentally ill goes to a shooting range with her son, and while he is at the target range, she comes from behind and shoots him in the head and turns the gun on herself. This was all recorded, it's graphic and hard to watch, so if you plan on seeing the original video but want to skip that part, it's between these timestamps. But that was a woman who left recordings of herself talking about a demon ruining her life.
She's obviously very severely mentally ill. Now, I think the demons took advantage of that and planted these horrible thoughts in her mind. But I want to make clear, the demons didn't pull the trigger. She did.
It's interesting how Bob, as well as many psychics, wiggle the responsibility. We saw people possessed and twirling around, even puking, clearly not in control of their emotions, presumably because of a demon. But it's not the demon's fault. But it is. But it's not.
Part of our job and part of our education at this point is learning where that fine line is. What is the difference between someone who suffers from schizophrenia or, bipolar disorder? It's very different though. When you know what to look for, you can tell when it's a demon.
But how will they know if someone is mentally ill if that person hasn't been diagnosed in the first place? They are not psychiatrists nor psychologists. They go with assumptions, and that is very dangerous.
These exorcists are really practicing medicine without a license. They are perhaps keeping people from getting real help when they really need serious help.
That was Dan Baker, a preacher that performed deliverances, but now he's an atheist. He was kind of a light exorcist. Dan is embarrassed by his past, especially because now he knows that the people seeking this type of help are suffering from an untreated mental illness.
It would be comical if it weren't dangerous. I mean, this woman looks like she's a somewhat mentally healthy woman who's just play acting and going along with it.
It's gotta be murder, there's gotta be blood. You wouldn't be that powerful unless there were blood. Blood.
This has Jerry Springer vibes. If you extrapolate all of the people to a studio and add Jerry in the back, it will all make more sense.
I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. But you see, the Establishment Church of America doesn't want to hear it. They wish I would be quiet and go away.
Will you be quiet and go away?
Absolutely not.
He thinks he's some hotshot preacher who somewhere in the future will have his own movie and everyone will know him and applaud his struggles. It's disgusting how he cheapens faith and fear. In my humble opinion, he, his trio, and everyone who commercializes people's pain using spiritualism, fortune-telling, or their own faith are frauds that deserve to be exposed as one. Thank you for watching.